For Money Talk Radio and the Ellis Martin Report, I'm Ellis Martin. Today we're speaking with Trey Wasser, CEO of Dryden Gold Corporation, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange as DRY, and in the U.S. on the OTCQB as DRYGF. The company just reported strong results from its ongoing 2025 drill program on the Elora Gold System, including 8.68 grams per ton gold over 9.40 meters at the Jubilee Zone, plus additional high-grade intercepts in the hanging wall structures. With a fully funded program and drilling planned well into 2026, Dryden is advancing multiple targets across the Gold Rock Camp. We'll discuss these latest assays, the growth thesis at Elora, and what investors should watch next. Trey, welcome back to the program. It's been quite a while. Congratulations with Dryden. It's great to speak with you today, and let's tell our audience all about this amazing find here, more than a find, in northwestern Ontario and elsewhere.
Thanks, Alice. Yeah, it's good to be back. It has been a while. We worked Elora Gold Royalties together and quite successfully, so glad to get going with you here at Dryden.
Trey, my first question is, after Elora Gold, why didn't you just retire?
I actually tried. I moved to Tyler, Texas, smaller town outside of Dallas, and house on the golf course. But I got a call. I was chatting, and this would be late 2021, right after he sold Elora, with Darren Wagner, a good friend of mine, and who I'd worked with at Elora. And he mentioned this property up in North and West Ontario that he had looked at for his company Balmoral right before they sold, because he sold his company about the same time I did. And he was saying how it was very unusual, very high grade, really good infrastructure. And I said, yeah, that sounds good, Darren. I said, but I got a tea time. I really wasn't giving a lot of thought until a few weeks later. Jason Jessup, another good friend who worked with me at Elora and has got a very successful company up in Sudbury now, we were chatting, and he, out of the blue, mentioned the same company. I didn't bring it up, so now he's talking about it. And Jason had actually worked up there. And of course, the Manitou Gold, he'd worked for Manitou doing some pilot mining right above where they had made a big discovery there of an incredible intercept of 53,000 grams per ton over half a meter. So they had done this pilot mining, and Jason said, yeah, if you can get a hold of this property, he said, there's gold everywhere up there. And that really made me take a look. And when I saw it then, I realized this really is a unique opportunity. High-grade gold right along the Trans-Canada Highway. Highway 502 runs right down through the middle of the property and to the side. And there's a couple reasons it's been so underexplored, but just a phenomenal property with incredible infrastructure, and yet very few drill holes ever been put into it. But the ones that have, again, 53,000 grams per ton, you don't see that.
When I read that on the website, I couldn't believe my eyes. I almost called you and said, what is this? And I cleaned off my glasses, I put them back on, I did the math on that. 1,894.21 ounces per ton. That's an insane number, and I don't even believe it, but it's published and it's of record, so it must be true. And how come we're just finding out about this now, and why wasn't anything done with it? I want to know.
Look, this is our Archean load gold system. Okay, you're not going to find that everywhere. And exactly why it happened, the previous operator, a little company called Manitou Gold, purchased this property from Gold Corp, actually. It sat in their portfolio forever. And going back, I think it sat, Rob McEwen had this property in Dickinson Mines when he merged to form Gold Corp. And of course, they got busy at Red Lake and just never looked at this property, never did any work on it. And Rob, of course, was the lead order on RTO financing. And because he knew the property, he said, I'd always wished we'd done more work there. Of course, they sell it, and junior company drills 53,000 grams per ton. Of course, he wishes he'd done some work on it. But anyway, the previous operator, they weren't really drilling. They hit this blind. It wasn't even anything they were targeting, but just very lucky. And they really didn't spend a lot of time then on the geology trying to figure it out. But we know we're in a very rich system, but it is an Archean load gold system, very much like Red Lake. And it's not easy. It's not everywhere, but it's there. And there's a lot of very enticing grades. We just reported an intercept of 300 grams per ton over just under 4 meters. And that had almost 2 kilos in the vein. Again, not 53,000, but the high-grade gold it's everywhere up there. It's just a matter of figuring it out and piecing it together. And that's what we're doing now, is really applying the science to it. We've got a great team, a lot of experience. Maura Kolb, our president, came from Gold Corp. She ran the entire exploration team at the Red Lake mine for 5 years for Gold Corp. So she really knows these systems, and she's put a team together that is really starting to understand it and unlock the value there.
What's the next step here? You're at 20 cents now, which is, in my opinion, really potentially undervalued compared to where it should be, considering what I'm looking at right now, these grades.
That's exactly right. And again, partially, the market's gotten a little bit better here this year. So we've got a little wind at our back, although that wind seems to ebb and flow. But yeah, it is unlocking this thing. And again, what we've put together is a huge property. So first of all, it's a district scale play. It's 70,000 hectares. And we're focused right now, this area that where this high grade is and where we've been drilling is only in a 1 square kilometer area. So give you an idea of how much ground we're just scratching the surface there. Truly, the more we work on this property, the more it looks like Red Lake. If you remember the history at the Red Lake mine, it was a okay mine till they got down mining to about 300 meters. And at about 300 meters, they started to run into these stacked structures. They call them hanging wall structures that had no surface expression. And all of a sudden, and as they got deeper, these just got higher and higher grade, and they found more and more of them. At one point, I think they were up to 10 hanging wall structures parallel to the main structure that they were mining from surface. We're seeing the same thing there. We just announced where we found a 4th hanging wall structure where we're drilling at the Jubilee Zone. One of those hanging wall structures is what I just mentioned that had the 300 grams per ton over 3.9 meters. We've hit another high grade one now. The more drilling we do, the more it looks like Red Lake. And that's what we think the potential here is. I personally think we're in the next Red Lake camp, and we just don't own the mine. We own the whole camp. Just a tremendous amount of potential, and the optionality from our price at 20 cents, which is about a $35 million market cap, to what this could be is a lot of leverage here.
For our American audience, it's about 250 square miles, which is a lot of ground. And you have 1 square mile that you're working on right now out of that 250. It's like one company controls this entire district. Comparing it to Red Lake, how many companies are in there? Numerous companies. Are you going to keep this all for yourself?
Look, what we're doing is applying about 50% of our drill budget, our exploration budget, to this area and uncovering the potential in one area in what we call the Gold Rock Camp. Then we have a pipeline of other target areas, like where we're working right now, that are in just various stages of being developed. We then have regional targets down at what we call Sheridan over at Hinman, which are completely separate styles of mineralization. So we've just gone down and done a first pass drill on Sheridan. That's in an ultramafic rock, not in the Archean lode gold system. And then we're doing channel sampling over at the Hinman property to the east, which is more of a low-grade bulk tonnage type of target in the granite. What we're trying to do, and of course our largest shareholder is Alamos Gold, so they're watching us very closely. Late last year, we got a strategic investment from Centerra Gold, so they're very intrigued. Now that those two are involved, all the major and mid-tier producers are watching what we're doing here. And we're trying to show the potential in a single area where we know that real high-grade gold is, and where now we're uncovering all these stacked structures, and it's growing depth at width in grade, but also showing the potential of an entire district play here, which ultimately might we joint venture part of this out? I don't know. Keep building it up and entice one of these to buy us out for a few $100 million over the next couple of years.
I know that's what you like to do, and you're really good at it, making money for your shareholders. We all saw that with Ely Gold. However, how long can you hold on to this before you do that, before you get taken out? If I were you, and I'm not, certainly not you, I would hold on to this as long as possible and let the market just keep obsessing over it and building over it. And then at some point, we've got a $20 or $30 share price, and then maybe let it go. But I don't know if anyone has the patience for that. I haven't seen anything this big.
Look, you're always balancing the dilution and the ability to raise money and to keep the exploration program going and to build that kind of value. You need a certainly great amount of luck on top of that, but we know we've got the scientists, and I guess I'd qualify as the gambler in here and hopefully get lucky again. But the truth is that the whole board of Dryden is made up of like-minded people. So Darren Wagner, of course, a founder of Mag Silver, he started West Timmins Mining and was sold. He started Balmoral and was sold. Christina McCarthy also just sold her Paycor after only being public for a year. Scott Kelly has been involved with the Marlin people and also going way back with Gary Freeman and Pediment. So everybody is like-minded. The exit strategy is M&A for a junior mining company. I can't even spell PEA. We like the Great Bear model. And when you look at that, Great Bear, from the time they made the discovery, and they were about a 50 million market cap at what they call the LP zone, and it was 2 years, and they sold for 1.6 billion to Kinross. So it can be done. They never published a resource, just did a bunch of drilling, and the more they drilled, the higher the stock price went until finally Kinross had to have them. And that's what we're working at here. And we're very well funded now. We just closed the financing, announced it Monday of this week. We haven't even spent all the money. We've still got about $1 million of exploration budget from what we raised last year. We're well funded for exploration well into 2026.
I covered Great Bear back when they were at about 20 cents or so early on, and it didn't take too long before that turned around. And I'm sorry, but these numbers are bigger, and the size is a lot grander as far as the scale of the project is. You mentioned Rob McEwen. Who else is involved?
We are so proud, Ellis, of our shareholder list, and we have really attracted some of the biggest names in the industry and some of the that are the hardest to get. We've got Rob McEwen, Eric Sprott, Bob Quartermain has put money in personally. On the fund side, Delbrook Capital, and they were the lead order for this recent financing. Sprott came in on this recent financing. Peter Schiff's Europac Gold Fund with Adrian Day, that Adrian Day runs, is a large shareholder. Medalist Capital. The list goes on and on. Robert Cohen from the 1832 Fund, he was a big investor in Great Bear, of course. Even the ones who think they're early are taking a piece for, as Robert Cohen said, it was for him, it was a FOMO order. Maybe it was too early, but he doesn't want to miss out either. So he wants to make sure he's on our list and that he's getting called every time we're looking for money.
Trey, you've got some exciting news. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we just put out a press release on August 21st with some more high-grade results from what we call a Jubilee Zone. This is where we've been seeing consistent, wide mineralization. The main zone there runs anywhere from 8 to 12 meters width. So we're not looking at just a narrow quartz vein kind of situation. And then on top of that, this is an area where just every time we drill, we uncover more of these stacked hanging wall structures. So this drill program, this series of results, we discovered a fourth hanging wall structure that had over 3.5 grams over 5.25 meters and 8 grams over 2.5 meters. And this is the same area. One of these hanging walls is where we had a release last month of 300 grams over 3.9 meters. So very rich. And again, the fact that these stacked structures that you don't see at surface just continue to show up as we do more drilling is really making this system grow. There was historic mining here in the early 1900s, but they really only mined from what was at surface expression. And it's so much like Red Lakes, these stacked structures with no surface expression, and see this system growing both in depth, in grade, and in width with these stacked structures.
Trey, we're going to speak in a couple of weeks. What do you think we'll be talking about?
Oh, I think because of this financing, we've been holding off on some drill results and actually holding off the lab with a significant amount of assays that we simply didn't want to get the results on, because if they were too good, we'd have to release them, and it could have upset the financing if the stock price had gone up more than 20%. I think we'll be talking about some of the more recent drill results, and it's exciting. Every drill hole, like I said, we're finding more of these stacked structures. We're finding more of the high-grade gold, really starting to piece together something. And a lot of it is near surface, what we're seeing. This is really starting to grow into something, and I think that's what we'll be talking about, is just more results. We should also be seeing channel samples coming in from over at Hinman, which I was just there on site last week, and that to me is very exciting. That could get very big very fast if these channel samples start to show a big footprint of mineralization over there.
Trey, it's great catching up with you after all this time. I look forward to our future chat in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for joining me today on the program. Such an exciting story.
Thank you, Ellis.
My guest has been Trey Wasser, CEO of Dryden Gold Corporation, trading as DRY on the TSX Venture Exchange and in the U.S. on the OTCQB as DRYGF. You can learn more at drydengold.com and read the full news release with the latest drill highlights from the Elora Gold System. As always, this interview is for informational purposes only and not investment advice. Dryden Gold Corp is a paid sponsor of the Ellis Martin Report. For Money Talk Radio, I'm Ellis Martin.